Good evening, folks, and welcome back to yet another episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast. I'm host Colby Evans, aka Startin' Parker on Twitter, and we have a very big show for you guys today. We're wrapping up our couple weeks of West Series action from Sonoma, and the main series after a long break returns this weekend at Berlin. And we also have some more news to go over with one of our full-time competitors who is now dropping from the full-time ranks and is now scaling back to a part-time schedule. We'll get on to all of that today. Big show for you guys today. We're going to go through my little intro I go through at the beginning of every podcast, and then we will get right into the action. So you guys know the drill. Follow me on social media at Startin' Parker on Twitter for all, ARCA tweets, lower budget team tweets, occasional lower budget team tweets, all that other fun crap you guys know I tweet. Like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on that bell for all notifications so you guys never miss a podcast when we go live. And, of course, check out theracingexperts.com for all NASCAR media-related content, as they are my official media partner of the show. So let's get into it, shall we? Again, week 2 of our ARCA West series. One of the very few times where you'll see back-to-back ARCA West series races. They were at Sonoma this weekend. Easy to say that these guys put on always a fun show at Sonoma. You got one of the bigger tracks they go to. All these young rookies on a road course that some of them have never really been on a road course this big. Not many having simulator time, and it just creates a fun atmosphere. Every year, these road course races in the ARCA West Series are so fun to watch because a lot of these guys are really inexperienced, and it's fun to see how they can handle a big road course like this. And while, from the Backmarker Battles review, I was kind of critical on the Cup race. It wasn't bad, but it really wasn't good. Xfinity race was a little bit better, but still wasn't perfect. And I would kind of put this ARCA race in the same vein. Better than the Cup race, about the same as the Xfinity race. Not great, but not bad. I would give the ARCA race right now, I would give it a 7 out of 10. And the only reason why I give it only a 7 out of 10 is because we literally had one dominant car. That's the thing. Usually these ARCA West races at Sonoma are highly contested. Usually there's multiple passes for the lead. And this year was a complete blowout by Ryan Preece. Now, that was kind of figured as this was a full Stewart Haas Racing setup car. It was a full, I think it was running probably an X, definitely running an XSHR chassis. I mean, this was probably the best setup car in the field, and it was going to be so hard to beat him. So hard to beat him. We had a big entry list of cars, which was always great to see. Like I said, we originally had 30 on the entry list. We were all excited to see Bobby Hillis back. Unfortunately, he would withdraw from the field, so that gave us only 29 cars. So if you guys see the lights flickering down here, we've been having some lighting issues in the basement, so I apologize for that up front. But yeah, we were down to 29 cars. Still a very solid field overall. I mean, even as much as we all love Bobby, I mean, he wasn't going to be a winning contender, so it's not necessarily a huge loss to the field. No disrespect to Bobby, but you know what I mean, guys. It's not a huge loss that we lost at 27 to Bobby Hillis. Just would have been nice for him to show up. So, but yeah, the big entries we had for this race, we had Sammy Smith and the 81 under Hattori for some reason. Still don't quite understand it. I don't know if it had something to do with the Oakley sponsorship, not being able to be affiliated with Gibbs, because we've seen that done before. Again, that's why KBM took the ARCA ranks because for last year, because TMC and FedEx, they couldn't be on the same team. We had Cole Custer driving for High Point Racing again. Like I said, Ryan Preece and a full-on Gene Haas. The car was owned by Gene Haas, so you could say this was the return of Haas CNC Racing, if you want to have some fun with that. We also had Riley Herbst in the 5 again for Jerry Pitts. And, those are kind of the big guns that were kind of battling for the win. Practice went as follows. For 29 cars, 28 took a time. The 86 of Tim Spurgeon, who usually comes out for these road course races, did get out on track for a practice lap, but he did not complete a practice lap. As long as you hit that starter with your transponder, you will have a registered lap and won't have to worry. So 28 of the 28 cars officially took a time. The slowest was Davey Margus. This was only one of his few starts. I'm not sure if he's made previous starts. He was over 10 seconds off the pace. He actually ran, I think he ran the most laps out of everyone in practice, 27 laps total. and yet was still the slowest. David Smith, who's been running full-time this year, he's just kind of been, trying to stay out of trouble, get the experience even at his age. He was 27th. Sammy Smith, not shocking. He was the fastest of all. The car was absolutely beautiful. I would easily say that 81 of Sammy Smith, top 5 ARCA schemes of the year. I don't think that Oakley scheme will be matched. And it's kind of interesting. It makes me wonder if this is more than a one-race deal because from race photos I noticed, Sammy Smith, they even made him a new fire suit. Now, I know sometimes you can see these new fire suits get made for one-race deals, but it really confuses me why they would have a new fire suit for Sammy Smith if this was only a one-race deal. You usually don't see that because, this race wasn't going to be televised live. So you wonder why would they make a brand new fire suit with the Oakley sponsorship for him if this race really wasn't going to be seen, all due respect, was not going to be seen by, hundreds of thousands of people, probably at most 65, 75,000 at most live viewers. So it makes me hope in that retrospective that we see the 81 back again with the Oakley sponsorship some point else this season, either in the main division or maybe another West race, maybe later this year at Phoenix. We'll see him in the 81 again with the Oakley sponsorship because why else would they have him in an Oakley fire suit if this was only a one-race deal? To me, that's just a waste of money. I know some people like to get new fire suits made, and believe me, Sammy's got plenty of money. But if you're going to make a fire suit with a new sponsor like that, I don't see why you would only do that one time. So I want to say that the 81, we might see the 81 Oakley car again. And that would be cool because that's a really, really good-looking car. Landon Lewis was second. It's really cool seeing the West Series regulars and MMI Motorsports, not in one of the higher tier teams, I would really say, but it really goes to show you the talent of Landon Lewis, man. I mean, this kid is really talented. Second place, right up there with the Xfinity and Cup guys. I mean, very impressive. Only 2/10 slower than Sammy Smith in practice. Cole Custer was third. Ryan Preece was fourth. Sean Hingorani, shout out to him. Even though he's kind of a rookie, no, he is a rookie. He's got Venturini equipment, and he's not letting it go to waste. Fifth quickest, Riley Herbst. Again, I respect Riley Herbst for driving for Jerry Pitts. Jerry Pitts Racing is definitely not one of the stronger teams in the ARCA West Series. And to see him actually taking what is an unsponsored car, the car is not sponsored by anyone. That's all out of Jerry Pitts' pocket and sixth quickest. We had the 2 Rev cars, which was kind of odd to see them, but I guess since the main series had an off weekend, they decided to go anyway. Jack Wood was 7th. William Sawalich in the 18 was 8th. Again, I think, for the kid, not a lot of road racing experience. And, if William wants to get into the Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and eventual Cup Series, you're going to have to learn road racing eventually. So having him run Portland and having him run this race, it's great road racing experience, even if we knew he wasn't going to win. And he wasn't going to win. He was not going to win this race. We all knew that. I knew he wasn't going to win Portland or this race, even if he isn't probably one of the best cars, just because of his lack of experience. And it showed. It showed him only being 8th quickest. Other West Series regular Bradley Erickson was 9th. Parker Retzlaff in a return with Young's Motorsports was 10th. More West Series regulars. Todd Souza was 11th. Trevor Huddleston was 12th. Tanner Reif was 13th. Dale Quarterly was 14th. And Johnny Boardman III returning with the Filter Time sponsorship. Shout out to Blake Cook. Shout out to Blake Cook a lot for sponsoring Johnny Boardman III. He's been around a long time, and really cool to see him sponsoring a lower tier guy, because you don't usually see that a lot. Blake Cook has the money. They have the money to sponsor a higher tier team, but they chose Johnny Boardman, so that's pretty cool. Probably didn't hurt the fact that they was number 8, so it's kind of like a old Dale Jr. partnership there. Some other notables in the field towards the bottom. Tyler Reif in the championship battle, he was down in 19th. Definitely been a struggle for Loudon Jackson the last couple races. Takuma Koge down in 22nd. I'm going to botch this guy's name real bad. Stefan Rezensnowicki. I probably pronounced his name wrong. He was a last-minute replacement for RJ Smotherman in the 46. That car would actually blow up in practice. They would not start the race. Ethan Nascimento, for some reason, they changed from 04 to 21 for this race. So, yeah, a lot of practice notes there. Qualifying was really no different, only a couple of changes. Ryan Preece really brought it to them, though. Even though he didn't show the speed in practice, he definitely showed it in qualifying. Over a half second faster than the entire field was Ryan Preece. Landon Lewis was second. Sammy Smith was third. Eric Nascimento, man, I'm telling you, that was also very impressive to see. Eric, a team that also does not have a high budget in the ARCA series, especially the ARCA West series. High budget in that series at all. And for them to qualify fourth, very impressive. Very impressive by that organization. Cole Custer was fifth. Riley Herbst was sixth. Parker Retzlaff was seventh. Jack Wood was eighth. William Sawalich was ninth. And Sebastian Arias was 10th. Kind of the guys you figured that were going to be up front. And then the West Series regulars that were outside the top 10. Again, those teams, they just don't have the equipment to really be competitive, And, it's okay. But it does kind of suck in some ways seeing the West Series regulars really struggle, because we used to see them really bring it to the, these random teams that would show up, these Xfinity and Cup drivers. But, man, they definitely they're not showing it this year, even though those guys tried their best, believe me. So, yeah. And I will say, like what some people are saying in the chat, it is cool seeing Cole Custer and Riley Herbst driving. I don't believe the 55 or the 5 had any manufacturer help, maybe a fresher motor, but it's kind of cool seeing Custer and Riley Herbst driving what you would be higher tier cars. Lower tier cars, and Jerry Pitts Racing and High Point Racing, two teams that are not on the higher totem pole of the ARCA West series. And yeah, I think that's just really cool. And they could have easily been in Stuart Haas cars, just like what Ryan Preece had. But no, they went and drove for lower tier teams. And I can really respect that. So the race got started on Friday. I missed a little bit of it. I missed the beginning, so I had to rewatch the front. So pardon me if I missed some stuff. Like I said, the 46 didn't start, so 28 cars ended up starting the race. The 9 pulled out to a big lead right at the start. Landon Lewis got into second. Sammy Smith got into third. They kind of stabilized in that position. Did have some drama early. The 55 car of Cole Custer, about 6 laps in, they had the window net fell down. And it's hard enough to put that window net up by yourself, believe me. If there's one thing that race fans will, you have to be on a crew to really understand it. But getting those window nets up it sucks. Those window nets are a pain in the ass to get up, even with help. There is no way a driver will ever be able to do that by himself with one arm trying to drive the car, especially at a road course. I respect Cole Custer for trying, but it wasn't going to happen. It was not going to fucking happen. I'm sorry. Well, I just dropped an F-bomb, so I'm sorry about that. But yeah, it wasn't going to happen. So fortunately for Cole Custer, they had to come down and pit to get that window net up. Luckily, like I said, multiple cautions throughout the race. Cole's race was not over by any means until later in the race. We'll get to that in a second. We had a caution a couple laps later, first caution of the race. Nobody was a lap down at this point. The 16 of Tanner Reif crashed. It said he was only stopped in turn 10. Again, I missed this caution, so I had to go back and watch it. But he was actually crashed with quite a bit of damage to the car. And honestly, what has happened to Bill McAnally Racing, man? If there's one thing I've really noticed the last 2 years, ever since this switch to Chevy, their truck organization has been just fine. If anything, it's the best thing that happened to them. But damn, their ARCA team sucks. I mean, I really thought when Landon Lewis went to that organization last year that BMR would get their 100th victory. And even Landon Lewis, he was running worse for Bill McAnally than he was for MMI. And he ended up leaving Bill McAnally again and returning to MMI for this season. Tanner Reif, who was very solid for Sunrise Ford last year, has done nothing in this car. And just what has happened to this team? I mean, they're on the verge of their 100th victory, and they're not even top 5 caliber every week almost at this point. They're literally running like garbage. They're only down to one full-time car. Sometimes you'll see the 99 entered. Sometimes you'll see the 19 entered. But even then, those cars aren't competitive, and the 16 is not competitive. What happened here? Like what? It can't be a lack of sponsorship. Are they just putting too much effort into the truck series? Probably. I mean, at the end of the day, you got 2 full-time trucks now, so you gotta put more effort into that. But what happened to their ARCA program, man? I mean, they dominated the K&N back in the K&N days, the Camping World days. Let's go way back. The Camping World Series days, the K&N days, and even the early days of the ARCA West Series. McAnally was reigning supreme. And these last 2 years, they have been nothing but junk. And it's really sad to see, what's happened to McAnally Racing. Tanner Reif is doing nothing. He's better than this. Tanner Reif is better than what he is doing in that 16 car. So just sucks to see BMR falling. Now, their truck series program is just fine. I mean, this is not a dig at the entire team. The truck series program is doing great. They got 2 wins this year. But god dang, their ARCA West series is garbage. Absolute garbage. It's not Tanner's fault. He's doing the best he can. Landon Lewis couldn't win with this team last year. That's how you really know how much they've fallen. But yeah, they would go to the garage for about 6-7 laps. Then they would get back out on track. But yeah, the day was already killed for them, unfortunately. And it would actually go back to worse as their other entry, the 19, would also fail to finish the race due to a transmission issue. The race got back going green again. Again, the 9 of Ryan Preece pulls away. 17 of Landon Lewis. He's trying to challenge him. But again, just a basic cup car. He just can't get to him. He's trying, but Landon just can't get to him. Run a couple more laps, and then we have yet another yellow. More troubles for High Point Racing. The 50 car, it really went bad to worse for them. Trevor Huddleston, the car stalled on pit road. They got the car going, it appeared like, because they brought out 1 caution for the car stalled on pit road. Then they got him back going, and then he stalled on the track. So he brought out 2 straight cautions. So basically from lap 16 to lap 21, we were just under yellow. I mean, technically we went back to green for about half a lap. So unfortunately for the 50 car, and this all but kills his championship chances at this point, finishing this deep in the field. The championship is over for Trevor Huddleston. It's not going to happen for them, which is a shame because you never knew. I mean, yeah, he was far away out of the championship battle, but no, his championship hopes are officially over after this race. So we finally get back going green again on lap 22, and we actually had a lead change. During that half lap, Landon Lewis was actually able to edge out the 9. So officially by scoring standards, he was the leader, and the 9 went ahead and took the opportunity to pit for tires. So the 9, he came just charging back through the field, and the 11-lap run. Wait, 11-lap run. A lot happened in the 11 laps. The 77 of Nick Jonides went for a spin. Brian Comiskey and Kyle Keller went for a spin. Sebastian Arias, he went to the garage for a mechanical issue, which really sucked for them because Sebastian was actually running top 10 at the time. Like I said, Eric Johnson Jr. in the second McAnally entry blew a transmission. Ryan Philpott in the second go. That team, unfortunately, went out with an axle problem. It's just so hard to be a part-time West team. It really is. Yeah, like I said, Eric Johnson Jr. So I'm thinking of Brian Johnson Jr., the old truck driver who drove like many years ago. Eric Johnson Jr., I'm sorry. He brought out the caution on lap 33. Ryan Preece was literally this close to passing Landon Lewis anyway. Unfortunately, though, we did have a problem for Landon Lewis. As the 19 came to a stop, they were doing the caution. I wasn't quite sure what happened to Landon Lewis. Again, I missed a lot of this race because I was out at a family event, and I rewatched the highlights and I rewatched the race, and I really didn't. I don't know if I missed it from Charles Krull. Can anyone in the chat help me fill in what happened to the 17? All of a sudden, I look at the charts, and he's not there. He's not on the grid, and it says he's off track. And I could never find anything on Twitter that explained what happened. Could anyone in the chat tell me what happened to him? Because then all of a sudden I see him back out on track 8 laps later, and I'm like, what happened to him? What happened? So now the 17 is now 7 laps down. He crashed. I mean, yeah, I don't know why. I didn't notice it. I was watching the broadcast. I watched highlights, and he said people are saying he was involved in the Nascimento Souza wreck. I don't know how I missed that, but I guess I did. So unfortunately, our championship leader, who had over 24-point lead over the field. I mean, realistically, he had the championship in hand. I mean, it was going to be so hard. We said it on last week's show. It was going to be really hard for the West Series field to catch him with how big of a lead that he had in the points. So, yeah, he goes to the garage. They get the car fixed. He gets back out, but he's 8 laps down. I mean, any chance of a good run is killed. And even despite all the attrition, a lot of people had the chance to gain points on him. But yeah, we had quite a few cars though drop out within the next couple laps. So yeah, we had the 19 of Eric Johnson Jr. drop out after 31 laps due to a transmission. The 52 of Ryan Philpott dropped out after 36 laps due to an axle. The 02 of Parker Retzlaff for Tyler Young, he dropped out after 37 laps with electrical issues, and Takuma Koga dropped out after 39 laps with another axle issue. So we had 4 cars right there in the space of 8 laps go out due to mechanical problems. So by the time we get back out on track, about on lap 41, we have literally just like 23 cars left on the track. The 14 of Davey Margus, kind of sucked to see him hit the wall. He hit the wall pretty hard, severely damaged the rear of his car. It didn't necessarily hurt his day. Like, the car will be repaired, just some cosmetic rear body work damage that's going to probably take a while to fix, but it ain't totaled. Davey will be able to fix the car, luckily. At this point, though, like I said, your reason why I'm not talking about the lead very much, there wasn't any battle for the lead. I mean, even Sammy Smith and his mighty, Hattori car or Gibbs car, whatever the heck it was no match. Ryan Preece was pulling out to lead, and nobody had anything for him. It was a race. It wasn't even a race for second. It was actually a race for fourth. The 81 had the second place car, and the 5 of Riley Herbst had the third place car. The real battle was for fourth place. Jack Wood, William Sawalich, Sean Hingarani, Bradley Erickson, Todd Souza. They were the ones battling for fourth. That was this race. But yeah, we had a few more dropouts. We had an awesome battle with Brian Comiskey. He had a rough day, but before we get to that, I forgot to mention Eric Nascimento. Todd Souza had gotten into quite a bit of accidents in this race. He had the incidents with Brian Comiskey, but he also turned the 4 of Eric Nascimento hard into the wall. Probably one of the worst West Series accidents we've seen this year as a whole. The 4 absolutely destroyed. Sucks for Eric Nascimento's team. Again, not one of the higher budgeted teams. It's a miracle that they can even field 2 full-time cars. But yeah, he was done after a top 10 level run. Brian Comiskey, he would go out with a rear axle failure. Him and Todd Souza were beating the living crap out of each other on track, which was really entertaining. It was just like Brad Keselowski and Marcus Ambrose all over again at the Glen. They were both managing to stay on track despite driving like 15-year-olds. That's the thing I love about the ARCA West Series. You won't see that in the Truck Series, Xfinity Series, or Cup Series. That's real road course racing, and I love it. Unfortunately, the 80 of Brian Comiskey, a broken axle in that process. Todd Souza would hang on for a top 10 finish. Brian Comiskey was out. Cole Custer, like I said, you didn't hear me talk about him. He had a rough day, along with the window net issue. They kept having transmission issues, mechanical issues all day. And eventually, I don't know if they just retired the car early or what they did. He just kind of appeared off my list of drivers. It actually revealed that he was out after 56 laps due to a transmission issue and finished 18th. So, the 2 races for Cole Custer, definitely not how he wanted to go. Basically gave away a win at Portland And this race was, while a good learning curve, definitely not what he wanted. For Landon Lewis, like I said, with the issues for Tanner Reif and Sebastian Arias and Brian Comiskey and Eric Nascimento, was able to gain quite a few spots, but still definitely not what he needed at all for the championship. Some more action up front. Dale Quarterly would unfortunately get spun in that final run, costing him a top 10 finish, which really sucks. He was on par for 2 straight top 10 finishes. Kyle Keller, he also got spun in that last run. But no one was going to beat the 9. Like I said, there's no real reason to talk about the lead because, Sammy Smith got to within about a second, and then that was it. The 9 pulled away. And in dominating fashion, Ryan Preece wins the General Tire 200. I appreciate Ryan Preece for running this race rather than the Xfinity race. And it was the one reason why I didn't like the Xfinity series running Sonoma. I loved it when the Cup Series guys would run the West race. Remember when we saw Austin Dillon, Kyle Larson, Justin Allgaier, David Gilliland, they would run the West race. So imagine if we didn't have that Xfinity race, how big this ARCA West race really could have been. We could have seen a lot of Cup guys in this field. But yeah, that's just kind of me nitpicking. Ryan Preece went on to win. Sammy Smith finishes second. Riley Herbst finishes third. Jack Wood finishes fourth. William Sawalich finishes fifth. Again, great road course experience because we know that kid's probably going to be a mainstay in the JGR ARCA program for the next couple years. I don't think he'll go straight. Personally, if I'm William Sawalich, stick to ARCA because for them, go ARCA to Xfinity like Sammy Smith did. Don't go to trucks. William Sawalich, no, don't go to trucks. Stay in ARCA. Trust me. He'll learn more. Sean Hingorani in 6th. Good run for him. Bradley Erickson in 7th. Todd Souza 8th. Johnny Boardman, again, great to see him back, 9th. And Ethan Nascimento was 10th. Other notables, Dale Quarterly, like we said, was 11th. Kyle Keller was down in 13th. David Smith, great to see him finally finish a race. He's been having some tough luck lately in 15th. Landon Lewis, like I said, all the way down in 19th. Not the day that they needed. Yes, they got some bonus points for leading laps, but not the day that they needed at all. Overall, like I said, the race was good. Not great, mainly because of Ryan Preece's domination. That's why. It wasn't a bad race, really, or else it was just a bad race because of the domination. But it's okay. It's okay. And yes, I agree with what some people are saying in the chat. It is redemption. I don't know if you guys remember watching the 2019 race. Supposedly, Ryan Preece jumped the last restart of that K&N race at Sonoma and got screwed out of that win. So I think that's probably why he wanted to run this race, kind of vindication. Wanted to get there. So yeah, good for Preece. He got redemption for getting screwed back in 2019. Yeah, so. But yeah, good overall. Great to see the Oakley car. Like I said, like we mentioned earlier, hopefully that Oakley deal is going to be for a couple more races because I can't imagine that Sammy Smith would get an Oakley fire suit made just for one race. It doesn't make sense to me why you would get a brand new fire suit just for one race. There's got to be something more to this. So yeah, so that was the ARCA West series at Sonoma. The point standings coming out of this, like I said, a lot of people and I always thought that they had the championship locked up for Landon Lewis, but that is not the case. Ringers in this race, such as Preece, Smith, Herbst, it didn't really allow the full timers to actually gain that many points, if that makes sense. Right now, Landon Lewis, again, the bonus points really, really helped him. He still has a 12-point lead. It shrunk in half from 24 points to 12 points. Sean Hingorani is 12 points back, so he's right back in this battle. Bradley Erickson, he's 14 points back in. He's right back in this battle. Unfortunately for Tyler Reif, I would say he is eliminated. 23 points behind. You're not going to make that up. Outside of Phoenix, Loudon Jackson has not shown the speed that they showed at the beginning of the season. Trevor Huddleston and Down, they're eliminated. 38 points, too much to gain. So Huddleston, Reif, Keller, and Susan, Smith, and Koga and the Nascimentos are out of the championship battle. So That's that. Kind of funny that even though Ryan Preece has only done one race, he's 25th in points out of the 52 drivers that have done ARCA West races. Ryan Preece is 25th in points. Pretty impressive. But yeah, again, in the Owners' Championship battle, obviously, the Owners' Championship battle is also pretty fun to watch right now. Steve McGowan, 12 points ahead of the Bill Venturini car. The interesting note about it, though, is the other entries in the field are also very close by. So the Owners' Championship battle will be fun to watch. Can MMI Motorsports actually win a championship? That'd be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool. So that was the ARCA West Series at Sonoma. For the ARCA West Series, they are getting some time off. They will not return until my birthday weekend, which will be July 1st weekend. My birthday's on the 2nd, by the way, for people who want to know, at Irwindale, their second trip to Irwindale. So for the ARCA West Series, it's some time off. Hopefully we see a bigger field at Irwindale than we did last time. Bigger than 16, that'd be nice. And yeah, for Sean Hingorani, like I said, that could be his opportunity to really gain, on Landon Lewis. So now we transition over to the main series division. The main series division returns to Berlin. And unfortunately, I wish I had some better news. Only 17 cars. The same amount of cars that we had at last year's race. So I guess we're not doing any worse than what we did last year. But a notable absence from this entry list is arguably, I would say, one of the more popular drivers of the ARCA Racing Series garage, Greg Van Oust. Unfortunately, when he said at Charlotte, the Charlotte deal, he said he might not make it to Berlin. He might not make it the rest of the season. He doesn't know what he's going to do. And unfortunately, that is the case. He is not on this entry list. Only, like I said, only 17 cars. We'll go through it for you guys right now, and then we'll talk more about this Van Oust deal. The 2 of Andres Perez de Lara. The 6 car is not entered this weekend for the first time this season. Tim Monroe is in the 10. Zachary Tinkle will also run a main series division race in addition to his E-Series schedules. Matt Kemp will make his debut for Fast Track Racing in the 12. Sean Hingorani will make a main series appearance in the 15. William Sawalich, of course, in the 18. Jesse Love in the 20. Tony Breidinger in the 25. Frankie Muniz, of course, in the 30. Tim Goulet, Rita Goulet's husband, will be running the 31. Shout out to Michael Klein, by the way, who ran some test laps for them. Christian Rose in the 32. Tony Cosentino in the 45. Brad Smith in the 48. Jeff Smith in the 49. Yes, the 49 is running again. They really want to get some, and the real reason why is, number one, to help car counts. Number two, Brad really wants to get laps on the 49 car. He wants to get more laps on the Ford. He wants to get the Ford ready. If that makes sense to you guys, extra laps on the car. That's really what it's for too. And it's close to home as well. John Garrett in the 66. Roger Carter, yes. Yes, that Roger Carter. The Roger Carter who has had one of the more sketchy pasts in the ARCA Racing Series. I can't get into that on this show, or else we'd be here for about an hour. But Roger Carter, the guy who owned the 40 and 97 entries in the mid-2010s of the ARCA Series, is back driving for Alex Club in the 03 car. So take that with what you will. Oh, yeah. So I love Alex, though. Wish them the best. I don't want to just hope everything works out good for them. And, of course, the 06 of A.J. Moyer. But, yeah, the notable absence was Greg Van Oust. He did a couple of interviews, one with frontstretch.com. Pretty eye-opening, kind of the same stuff that we kind of figured. Everyone kind of made such a big deal about, this one post saying, we spent more going down to Daytona than we actually won. And it's like, that's nothing new. That's nothing new. Really, that's been kind of that way since forever with the ARCA Series. I mean, even as far back as the early 2000s, you would spend, the teams who would win the ARCA race at Daytona would spend more money than they actually would bring in. That's always been like that. If you wanted to win the ARCA race at Daytona, you were going to spend the money to be competitive, unless you wanted to spend the money just to run laps out there like Norm Benning and Wayne Peterson. You had to spend the money. Even back in that day, you had to buy the good cup motors. You had to take your car to some Cup Series race shops to get properly fabricated. You had to be creative. So it's nothing new. So when he said that he spent more money than he brought in for the Daytona win, that wasn't shocking. That wasn't shocking to me. I kind of expected that. He did go on to say at the Charlotte interview that it kind of costs him the same to run late models. Really shows you how much the late model scene's gone up in price. But I will say this, though, and I said it in my Charlotte review, still distasteful by Jamie Little. You got a guy who is upset, doesn't know if he's going to make it to the next race. And I'll still be honest with you, I did not appreciate Jamie Little's jokes that she was making about that. And I would say respect to Phil Parsons. Phil Parsons, he understood what Greg Van Elst was going through. But Jamie Little making those jokes, man, that still doesn't sit right with me. You don't know what these guys are going through. You don't know what these guys are going through. So, yeah. Like when Zachary Tingle's in the chat. I mean, people want to say that ARCA is, you spend more money in ARCA than you bring in. Late model racing has gotten ridiculous. I wish you guys could really realize. I mean, the major late model scene in the Cars Tour, the amount of money that you have to spend to be competitive in that division versus what you're bringing in, it's worse than ARCA. They just don't tell you that. It's not as public as ARCA is. But trust me, if you think ARCA is bad, go look at the Cars Tour. It's no better really over there. It really isn't. They just do it a little bit cheaper than ARCA does in some ways. But yeah, for Greg Van Elst, our friends at racingexperts.com reached out, and, Greg just kind of said his volunteer guys were busting their asses. They were trying to get this car ready. They had a car ready for Berlin. I reached out to a Greg Van Elst crew member that I'm friends with. They had a car ready for Berlin. It's just they were going to go, but then they looked at, they had to look at logistics. And can they really go the whole season? Last year was really tough for them. They did lose money last season. Greg admitted that. They lost money running the whole season last year versus what they were able to bring in. That's why he really was sponsor searching this year. He didn't want to run the whole season unsponsored, kind of like he did last year. That's why they were doing the sponsor35.com deal. So they just, I don't know, it's kind of a logistics of everything. He wouldn't tell me everything, obviously, and I didn't want him to. Again, I'm just a friend. It's not real, none of my business, but just a lot of combinations of anger, of course, at the Charlotte incident. And I had people tell me, oh, he was on old tires. It was his fault. It's like, dude, at the end of the day, fine. You can think what you want, but the 18 was on newer tires. He was going to get up there eventually. You have to show some patience. And that's what's missing from these young guys. And that's why I blame the crash on Mosack. They're saying, oh, the 35 couldn't hold his line. Yeah, because he's on old tires. What do you expect? He's in a slower car in general, and he's on old tires. I'm sorry, but the 18 just drove right through him. The 18 could have showed patience there. Back off, wait a corner, and pass him in the next lap. Okay? You had plenty of time. There was going to be another yellow in that race anyway. Trust me. And they said the worst part about the crash was it's not like, when we were also talking with Van Elst's team, they were saying it's not like, we got turned and, we clipped a body panel. Like, we'll have to replace the nose. If they had to replace a body panel, fine. That's fine. If they had to replace a rear bumper or a quarter panel piece, that's doable. He hit the wall hard. The right side of the car was toast. The entire right side body, entire right side suspension, the truck arm, killed. I mean, this car was badly, badly damaged. It wasn't just a simple body panel or cosmetic damage. Chassis, not totaled, but very, very damaged. And Greg's went through a lot. The Talladega car, I don't know if you guys know. I'm pretty sure I posted it online. The Talladega car, that's done. The Daytona winning car, the Talladega car that was crashed, done. That car was totaled. So Greg's went through a lot. And, you got to look at the logistics of that crash from Talladega, wiping that car out completely. And the Charlotte crash, that was the second race for that Mustang body. For the people who don't know that was the second race for Greg's Mustang body. Brand new body he had just put together. Second race out, got crashed. So you got to think, he doesn't have another Mustang body, I don't think, ready to go yet. And they were probably going to have to bring one of their old Fusions to this race. And Greg's not the guy who's going to show up there just to run. He probably wouldn't have done any better than probably 4 or 5 laps down. The car was not going to be competitive this weekend had Greg shown up. That's another thing that they had told me. Had they shown up to Berlin this weekend, they probably wouldn't have done any better than probably 10th. And that's being honest. They were not going to be competitive. So they didn't want to show up not to be competitive. So a combination of logistics, also purse money didn't help either because, when you finish low, you get lower purse money. Talladega, $2,200 is about what they got for Talladega, but where they were expecting to finish, probably top 10 would have brought in a little bit more money for them. Same with Charlotte, finishing higher would have brought in a little bit more money for them. So the poor payouts that they've gotten also the last couple races haven't helped them either. So kind of what I'm just saying is it's a combination of everything, if that makes sense to you guys. I'm trying to put it as easy as possible for the people who don't really understand the business. Combination of crash costs, logistics, Greg's budget as a whole. That's the worst part about this. The 18 car, that team has an unlimited budget. I don't want to hear anyone tell me that the 18 team is low budget. No. Joe Gibbs, the ARCA team's a tax write-off. Let's just face it like that. The 18 team is a tax write-off for Joe Gibbs. That team has all the money in the world. They total a car, no big deal. They'll build another one. Greg Van Oust, this is a team that's based in Indiana, okay? It's hard for them to get parts. It's hard for them to fix these cars. So it really sucks. But at the end of the day, I understand it completely. They're going to put out a full press release and later on. But the part that really sucks is when they said that they would scale back to a part-time operation. Unfortunately, it's part-time. Like we're talking, guys, only at most probably 4 races. That's what they told me. About 4 races is about all else they're going to do this year. And that's really sad that they're only going to do about 4 races. Greg wasn't a big fan of the road courses last year or the dirt tracks. Those are definitely not his cup of tea. So they said they don't really mind skipping them because he didn't really like those last year. Again, he's a short track guy, and he kind of prefers those, obviously. But yeah, it just sucks. It just sucks. But losing a full-time car, that's not what we needed this year. Car counts have been up all year. In fact, had the 35 entered, we would have had a bigger car count than what we would have had last year. So just sucks all around. But from a financial standpoint and everything else, it makes sense. It really does make sense for Greg Van Oust and his team. I wish them nothing but the best. Obviously, Greg Van Oust has gone through a lot this year. I mean, you take out the Daytona win, he lost his father, Bruce. Bruce was a huge loss for him in that organization. He was so down at Kansas. Like, I cannot tell you guys how much it broke my heart seeing him at Kansas. And it's just, I really don't think I saw Greg smile the whole weekend, and that broke my heart too. I wanted to go over and, introduce myself, say hi to him. But honestly, after the way I saw him and I saw his team, I just kind of left them alone. A lot of people kind of did. I mean, I remember back at Kansas, not many people went and talked to them as much as they probably just gave their condolences. I saw Phil Parsons over there talking to him at Kansas. I wanted to go say hi to them at Kansas. I didn't want to at the end of the day because I didn't want to bother them. Kansas was a rough day for them, even though they didn't crash. It was just a rough weekend because of what happened with Bruce. And then you add in the Talladega crash, and then you add in the Charlotte crash. This man has gone through so much in just a couple months. So it sucks. I gave them my best wishes. I'm going to let them give you guys all the information in their press release, the couple races that they will be running. I will say I would expect him to run Bristol. He likes Bristol, so I would expect him to be there for the ARCA East combo race. Maybe the finale in Toledo because he doesn't live very far from the Toledo track. A lot of the Midwest tracks probably I would expect him to run. I don't think they'll be going out far. But, yeah, definitely sucks for Greg Van Oust. I don't know about Salem. Like I said, the only one I can probably confirm is Bristol because he loves Bristol. Greg Van Oust loves Bristol. Absolutely loves that track. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about Greg Van Oust for a couple minutes. It's just a really sad situation. I hope he's doing okay mentally. I hope the team's doing okay. And when they get back to the track soon, rest assured everybody's going to be really happy. That's for sure. But yeah, a big combination of everything is kind of why Greg Van Oust has scaled back his operations. But anyway, the rest of the entry list, last year's race at Berlin, I definitely said it was one of the weaker races. I was honest last year. Berlin and Elko were two of the weaker ARCA races last year, mainly due to their poor fields. Berlin has always struggled with car counts. Last year, like we said, we only had 17. We had 1, 2, 3, but we had 5 starting parks in last year's race. One full-time car blew up in practice. So really only 16 started the race. We had 5 starting parks. We only had 11 cars going the distance, and only 8 of them ended up finishing. But ironically enough, we actually had the surprising finish of last year's race. Daniel Dye, who was dominating the race, had an electrical issue with 8 laps to go, and Sammy Smith took over and won the race. Neither of those guys are entered in this year, which is, I will say, that's definitely shocking not to see Daniel Dye entered in this race. I mean, there's no truck race this weekend, so I don't see why Daniel Dye would have any obligations. Kind of surprised that Daniel Dye is not entered for any races, not entered in this race this weekend. Really am. Even if he was just going to run for like maybe Rev or something like that. Obviously, the championship battle is really heating up. Jesse Love, I mean, well, I want to say heating up because I want to believe we're still going to get a championship battle, but after a promising start to the season, Jesse Love's kind of running away with it. Frankie Muniz is 13 points behind. Jack Wood, not full-time, 29 points behind. Andres Perez de Lara, 34 points behind. It really sucks because Andres has good results. 2 top 5 finishes this season, 4 top 10s. He's led 28 laps. He's finished 4 of his 5. He's finished all 4 races he's attempted this year. So he's just too far behind. Not being able to start that Daytona race just really sucks because it kind of took away whatever championship battle we were probably going to have. Frankie Muniz, obviously he's doing the best he can, but even that 30 team is not a winning team. I'm sorry, they're not. They're top 5 at best, but they're not a winning. They're not going to go out there and beat Venturini, and that's just a sad truth, whether they want to admit it or not. The starting parks in this race, important to note, no 0-1 entered for Hillenberg's team, which is not shocking. At the end of the day, they'd have to bring an extra trailer and truck for the 0-1, so it kind of makes sense why they didn't bring the car. That car is probably on the B plan. Tim Monroe's in the 10. Zachary Tinkle, if you're still watching, or John Schultzke, if you're watching, is Tim going to run the whole distance, or is he starting parking? Other than that, I would expect, of course, Zachary and Matt to run the whole distance. Like I said, some heavy hitters still in this race. A lot of, again, inexperience at this track. We're going to have a lot of rookies on this track. Sean Hingarani, Andres Perez de Lara, William Sawalich. Jesse Love is probably one of the only guys that actually has experience at this track. We also got Frankie Muniz, Christian Rose, Tony Cosentino, and probably going to be our competitive cars. Really curious to see how Tony Breidinger does in this race last year. She had a poor performance in last year's race, finishing over 5 laps down, so hopefully she'll be able to do a lot better this year. The starting parks I would expect in this race, obviously the 49 of Jeff Smith. It wouldn't shock me if even the 48 TBA on Tim. Okay, TBA on Tim. Wouldn't shock me if the 48 of Brad even starting parks. I know they were replacing the nose after Charlotte, so it wouldn't shock me if they start and park this race too. Probably, honestly, would be the smartest decision because with only 17 cars entered, Brad's not necessarily going to lose anything in the points. If he outruns, the 49, I mean, like I said, the worst he's going to finish, 16th? Probably wasn't going to do. I love our team, but we probably wouldn't do any better than probably 13th anyway. So, I could see both Brad cars starting parking. The 03 will run the whole distance. AJ Moyer, he'll run the whole distance too. So I think out of our 17 cars, we'll probably have about 15 that'll run the whole distance. Berlin, like I said, it's just under a half mile, but just bigger than a quarter mile. So I don't think we'll see any problem with lap cars. Lap cars usually do a pretty decent job of staying out of the way here. AJ and the guys, they're going to be running the Toyota this week for Peterson. The 03 of Roger Carter, the Alex Club car is getting a new paint job, so the Del McCowart throwback car is going away. But yeah, a lot of rookies in this race, our usual heavy hitters, but this is kind of the part of the ARCA season where it took us just a very, very slight downturn. I don't want to be rude with that, but the Berlin and Elko races, in my opinion, have just always been weak races, very weak. In terms of car counts and in terms of competitiveness and really good on-track activity. Now, it's not shocking to see why, these tracks are located in Michigan and Elko's located all the way in Minnesota. So number one, it's a very long haul for these ARCA teams who are based, in the Carolinas to go all the way out to Minnesota and all the way out to Michigan. It's a long haul for them. But and a lot of teams just don't really want to do that. For the full-time teams this season, they don't really want to go all the way out there for nothing, so to say. Just kind of like for nothing. Not trying to be rude to them, but for them, it means nothing. Like I said, for Berlin last year, we only had 17. For Elko, we only had 20. And both of those races last year, I said it on the podcast last year, they both were not very good. They weren't. So I think the mid-pack racing, like what people are saying in the chat, I think the mid-pack racing this weekend will be fine. Do I think that this race will be better than last year's Berlin race? Yes, 100%. I think we got more heavy hitters in this race that logistically have a chance to win. Andres, Sean, William. I think Sawalitz versus Jesse Love, that's going to be a good battle. That's really going to be a fun battle to watch this weekend. But yeah, in terms of that, it'll be a fun battle. The championship, like I said, Jesse Love currently leads over Frankie Muniz. The Owners' Championship is also kind of fun to watch right now. Right now, the Max Siegel entry still leads by 4 points over the Billy Venturini 20 car. So although Andres Perez de Lara is not competing for a driver's championship right now because he's pretty far out, he does have something to still race for, that Owners' Championship. And that's really where the financial comes in for the ARCA Series, is that Owners' Championship. So rest assured, they're going to be battling hard for that one. The Billy Venturini 20 car is second. The Joe Gibbs 18 car is third. And the Mark Rett car is down in fourth. Now, the 6 Max Siegel entries on the B plan, so he won't count. And the 32 of Kevin Sawinski entry will move into the top 5 after this race. Again, the top 20 in ARCA points get a bonus at the end of the season. Regardless of how many races they attempted, you just have to be in the top 20. Right now we had 18 full-time cars, but the 01 will not be here. The 01 will not be here, nor the 35. So that'll put us down to either 16 or 15 full-time cars. So leaves quite a few spots open for that top 20 bonus, and we'll start to track that now that we are a quarter of a way through the season. So, Dawson Fair, where'd you get your green shirt? Oh, it's an old BJ McLeod shirt. I don't know if you guys can notice the 78, 8, and 9. This is a first edition team BJ McLeod shirt. They don't make this anymore. This is back when BJ ran his green cars. This was a Christmas gift from them, 2018 or 19. I don't remember, man. This was a Christmas gift from BJ McLeod Motorsports. But yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend of racing overall. NASCAR's got an off weekend, and this race will be on Fox Sports 2, I think, Fox Sports 2. So for the people who don't have anything to FS1, actually, live Saturday, June 17th, 8 p.m. Eastern on FS1. So no NASCAR, so maybe we can get some good numbers for the ARCA race. Maybe we can get 500,000 viewers for the ARCA race. That'd be good. The purse payouts for this race, again, we talked with the Greg Van Al situation about low payouts. Well, it's races like this that, make his statement true. FS1. Thanks, John. last place, 17th, $1,000. Now, do they get a flow racing bonus of $200? I'm not sure. But yeah, $1,000 for last place. That's horrible. It's the one thing we continue to crap on every time about these ARCA payouts, and they're not good. $1,000 is a joke. I'm sorry, but it is. $5,000 for winning, just that's horrible. Even with contingency awards, first place is $1,350, second place is $6,475, and third place is $4,100. I mean, that's not good. $4,100 should be what last place pays. I say that so many times now. At minimum, last place in ARCA should pay no less than either $3,000 or $4,000. Let these teams have a chance to buy a set of tires. So, that's what I mean. If ARCA at minimum paid even just $3,000 minimum for every race, you have no idea how better off Brad Smith, Andy Hillenberg, Alex Clubb, Peterson, not even throwing guys like Kimmel, guys like, Cosentino, how better off they would be in terms of funding. They would be so much better off. If we had Dover level payouts, that ARCA East race that pays great, where 10th place pays $5,000, it paid like $25,000 to win. That's what ARCA should be. Every ARCA race, in my opinion, should pay no less than $50,000 to win. $25,000 for second, $10,000 to third, and then no less than $3,000 for last place. Now, if it's all sponsor, fine. I get it. If it's all sponsor driven for purse money, Menards is a multi-billion-dollar company, or at least multi-million-dollar company. They are rich. John Menard is loaded. So you're telling me he can't raise these payouts for this ARCA series? Come on. What are we doing here? We got to change this. These low payouts, they weren't that bad in the early 2000s because everything back then was still pretty cheap. Well, it's 2023. The economy is garbage. We got to raise these payouts. If we raise these payouts, we could get more cars. So I don't want to get into a whole rant about that because we could go another 10 years if I ranted about payouts. But yeah, so Friday, Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, I believe. Yes, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Tune into that race if you're not doing anything. It'll only be probably 90 minutes at most. It'll be over in a flash, but should be a fun race. If I want to give a last-minute pick before we sign out here, I am going to go with Sawalich to win this race. And my dark horse pick will be Dallara. So my pick to win the race will be Sawalich. No real underdog pick because I don't think we're going to see an underdog win. So I'm going to go with my dark horse pick will be the 2. So thank you guys for joining me on tonight's episode. We went very long tonight, almost 1 hour. 1 hour tonight's episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast, but it's always fun being here. I want to do the show on Tuesdays, but no entry list. Can't do it on Tuesdays. So thanks again, guys, for joining me for another episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast. I hope to do this show on Tuesday next week if the entry list comes out. If it doesn't, we'll be back here on Thursday. Tune into my other videos on the channel. Tune into the other podcasts on that video. And yeah, I wish we were going to say we see a whole weekend of racing ahead, but we just got the ARCA series. So see you guys on Saturday for that race. It'll be a lot of fun. And have a good rest of your Thursday night and a good weekend in general to all of you. And have a great night. Take care to you all. And Colby Evans signing off, and I'll see you all later. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Thanks, guys. So long. Take care.